Oh,
And
you said something in the episode I was listening to of yours, and I thought it was so fascinating. It was your last episode of your podcast with the
yeah,
cake baking. I wanna make sure I have the right title. It was called oh, yeah, from episode 39 of Informed Dissent, Just Shut Up and Bake the Cake, and you said,
shows make me.
people are terrified of liberty, and that ultimately boils down to problems with the government. I just thought that was so fascinating because 'cause I've never heard anybody put it that way, and I hope you know what I'm what I'm referring
Yeah,
to.
I
But if you
do.
wanna
Yeah.
expand a little bit on why you think people are terrified of liberty.
Yeah, well, people have this need for control, and that's kind of a human nature kind of thing, I think. And when you don't have control of something, it makes you a little fearful, little because you're unsure what's going to happen. You have to kind of trust that the system is going to work the way it's supposed to, that things are going to fall in line that the way they're supposed to. And I think people, the further left you go, the more control that people want to have over society because they feel like people are not going to make the right decisions unless they control them and make them make the right decisions. So they have a very antagonistic view of liberty that like if we can't just let well to use the bakery example, it's like we can't just let bakeries do what they want because then they'll make the wrong decision and they'll discriminate against people and they
Mm.
won't bake cakes for black people and they won't bake cakes for whatever, rather than recognizing that the market when allowed to operate freely punishes people for discrimination because you lose customers and you open yourself to boycotts and things like that, which as long as the government's not protecting you, that's going to cost your business. And so you either adapt or you go out of business in those scenarios. But I mean, just in general, you move away from business, from the business aspect, and people want, think about COVID. People want to know that other people are going to do what they want them to do, which is the
Yes, that was
absolute
the biggest
opposite of
example.
liberty.
Wow.
The opposite of liberty. Yeah. So yeah, COVID's probably the best example of that because people's like, oh well, this is my opinion. This is how I see the world, and this is what I think should happen. Therefore, everybody else must fall in line with that vision. And the only way that I can ensure that everyone else falls in line with that vision is if I use the government to force them to do it. And
And you
so they
notice
have
how the
no
people
faith.
it seems like the people that are the most outspoken and the most harsh are the ones that they just happen to agree with what the government is also pushing, and that's I think that's part of why they feel emboldened because 'cause they're like, "Well, the powers that
Well,
be are
yeah,
also pushing this."
I think a lot of authoritarianism happens that way. I think people fall in line with authoritarianism because something happens and they agree with the specific thing that the government is doing. And then that continues, and all of a sudden the government's doing things that they don't like, and it's too late at that point. Because like,
They're
oh no,
already they're already on the
it's
team.
too
Yeah.
late. Yeah, you already gave them the power to do it. Like, then one of the things I always say is that listen, I know that we have this impulse to do good, and there's this sense that the government is able to do good if we just give it more power. Like we can solve
Hmm.
homelessness, we can give everyone health care, we can make sure nobody's starving if we just give the government more power. But what people need to understand is that the more power that you give the government to do good, the more power you give it to do evil, to do terrible things. And governments are predisposed to do those terrible things. and and they're probably not going to accomplish the good things that you set out to do. So you have to be very careful about how much power you end up giving government. Our founding fathers understood that very well, and we've just kind of lost that thread, thinking that if only we had the power, we can do all these amazing things and create utopia, and it never works.
Yeah, and I've heard people say, "Oh, the Second Amendment, well, it's not really about, like, us having our own militias or us having our own, weapons, it's about kind of like our own government's army," and I was like, oh, just people are desperate to misunderstand our own rights. It's very
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back to critical race theory and queer theory, even the idea that the entirety of our Western society, our entire Western culture, and the foundational principles of our country they believe that these things are all oppressive. So the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the idea of free speech, they believe that these things are oppressive. And so it's not that they have just a regular distrust of liberty, but they distrust the entire foundation of our society, of our country, and the entirety of Western society itself. And so they're opposed to every foundational principle that we think holds our country together, that we think that we can that this is what we need to come together and agree on. But they oppose that, and they think that those are the things that need to be torn down. I mean, I don't know how you I don't know how you reconcile if somebody thinks that free speech needs to go away. I don't know how you reconcile with that person. I don't know. It's crazy.
And I do believe that the people that feel that way, they just have never had they've never had an idea or been passionate about something that goes against the grain, that goes against the government or the masses, really. It just
Right.
hasn't come for them yet.
They don't think that far because the entire ideology depends on them being in power. It depends on them having the reins and controlling the direction of the country and or whatever system they're talking about. But because there's no way that they would tolerate President Trump having that kind of power, for instance.
Right?
Like there's
Right.
no way they would tolerate that. But as long as they're in power, they believe since they're morally righteous and intellectually superior, they're the anointed, as Thomas Sowell would say, then they should be given this expansive power and control over people, whereas us peons, like we're not righteous. We're just regular old sinners who just need to shut up and be allies and listen to them and do
Yeah, and
what we're told.
similarly, in Rules for Radicals, they use the concept of, like, morality as, like, the kind of springboard to get into whatever else they wanna push. They're like, "Oh, no, we're better than you. We're looking out for the greater good." It's like, ugh.
Yeah. Compassion is a key word
Yeah.
they like to use. Like, how could you not be compassionate? But when they say compassion, they just mean bend the knee to our ideology, worship our gods or else. That's what compassion means to them. So, but they use words like that, like morality and compassion and things like that in order to justify anything they want to do. It's like we need to give government expansive powers so that everyone has health care, because that's the most compassionate thing. But they don't think about, or they don't consider that there are other perspectives, other valid perspectives to consider. It's just, I'm compassionate and you're not. The end.
Yeah. I just think of, like, all the times I've been in between jobs and I've, like, like, "Alright, I'll sign up for unemployment," and then it always takes too long or it doesn't happen or it doesn't come through. I'm always like, "Ugh, it's just quicker to get another job. Like, what the fuck am I doing?" I just
Yeah.
can't imagine,
Yep.
like, teaching my kids. It's like, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
so scary to put your income in somebody else's hands. I mean, we all do to a degree, but
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys, thank you for the chats. Thank you for the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Bye. All right, love you guys. God, I don't even want to leave. This candle smells so good. I don't want to leave. All right, love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye. Love you all. Join the Discord. Feet. Love you all. Wow. You guys are awesome. Love you, get it. Bye, guys. Bye. Now I'm really leaving. Love you. Bye.